Listen, if you're all worried that you might forget your lines, remember this. There are actually strategies that can help you improve the way in which you remember your story, to remember your script, to remember your speech, the sequence. And at the same time, you can also use some of these strategies to help you recover if your mind goes blank in the midst of your presentation. So what are these strategies? There are 3 strategies in total. Strategy number 1, it's to make use of visual aids. Like for example, when you tell a story, I have the habit of telling my story by making use of PowerPoint slides. Why? Because picture paints 1,000 words. Instead of just describing, oh, my character is this slightly older gentleman, age 70, head of white hair, sharp chiseled chin, wearing this old-fashioned blazer with the elbow pad. Instead of spending so many sentences just to describe how the character looks like, just one flash of the slide on the screen, I'll be able to show you in just 1 second how the character looks like. Right? So making use of PowerPoint slides, of course without words, just with images, would be very helpful. And each time as I narrate my story, I flip to the next slide. It serves as a powerful pattern break. Each time there's a change in slide, it causes the audience minds to refocus. And that explains why people can watch a video for 2-3 hours, a movie for 2-3 hours, but listening to a lecture that's very stale and plain, just 20 minutes, they want to fall asleep already. So having that pattern break would be useful. And imagine using visual aids, because with the visual aids up there in the form of slides or cue cards or flip charts, you find that you'll be better able to look at the image and it jolts your memory as to what to say next. Even when your mind goes blank in the midst of your presentation, that's exactly what you can do. Now, the second technique or the second strategy that you can use to help you better memorize and remember your speech is to remember it by parts. Meaning to say, if you have a speech, the intro, body paragraph 1, body paragraph 2, and conclusion, we split that into those 4 parts. Instead of memorizing from the top to the end, the problem with doing that is that you tend to be very familiar with the opening, but when it comes to the later parts, it's a little bit fuzzy. And if you forget a line in the middle, you find it very hard to recover. So when you split it into parts, you realize that you can practice, get a good friend, or just go to Google, a random number generator, and then you generate a number. Go to part 3. The friend may say. Then you go to part 3. Start of part 3 to the end of part 3. Go to part 1. Start of part 1 to the end of part 1. So you start memorizing and you start delivering part 1 and rehearsing part 1 to the end of part 1. Go back to part 3 again. Then start of part 3 to the end of part 3. Go to part 4. Start of part 4 to the end of part 4. So when you do that, the beauty is you will know exactly which parts you're not so familiar with. The beauty is that you will know exactly, hey, I can bridge. If I forget my line in the middle of part 3, I can just jump to part 4. And the audience might not, in fact, they will tend not to know the better. Why? Because the audience don't know how your script is going to pan out. And that's very beautiful to memorize and internalize it in parts. The third strategy is to make use of acronym. If I'm going to tell a story, right, about how, let's say about Warby Parker. So they were a group of students when one of them lost their glasses on a backpacking trip. And they couldn't find alternatives. Glasses were just way too expensive. And that was finally what motivated them to come up with an alternative, Warby Parker, that company, to try and fight with the big boys and big girls in the industry. So I can use the acronym BAM. For example, B stands for backpacking, and A stands for alternatives, no alternatives, and then M stands for what motivates, motivation. So BAM helps me to remember better that story, for instance. So making use of acronyms would be extremely helpful. So I hope these 3 strategies are useful for you, and comment in the comment section. Let me know what other techniques you would like to know. Let me know what are some of the topics that interest you so that I can continue to give you value to help you become an effective and eloquent presenter.